Imagine flying 14 hours across continents, only to find out you can't land. This is the chilling scenario that unfolded on September 11, 2018, aboard Air India Flight 101. The flight had started like any other, taking off from New Delhi's Indira Gandhi International Airport, bound for John F. Kennedy International Airport in New York. The Boeing 7300 extended-range twin jet, a veteran of over 9 years of service, carried 342 passengers and a crew of 15, a total of 357 souls. The flight was uneventful until they approached JFK. As the plane descended, the pilots were hit by a series of instrument failures. The instrument landing system, which aids landing in poor weather conditions, failed. They were flying blind in heavy rain and clouds, with a dwindling fuel supply and the lives of hundreds in their hands. Little did the passengers know they were about to embark on a journey marked by fear, uncertainty, and the struggle for survival. The fate of the flight was sealed even before it set off from the tarmac, a statement that may seem dramatic, but for Air India Flight 101, it was a grim reality. The flight was a routine journey from New Delhi's Indira Gandhi International Airport to John F. Kennedy International Airport, a Boeing 7300 extended-range twin jet carrying 342 passengers and a crew of 15. This jet had been in operation for over 9 years, and like any machine, it had its quirks. One such quirk was a troublesome auxiliary power unit, or APU for short. This unit, responsible for providing energy for functions other than propulsion, had been causing issues before the plane even left the ground. It was a red flag, a stark warning sign that all was not well, yet the pilots, drawing on their experience and perhaps a bit of that human tendency to push forward despite the odds, deemed the issue non-critical. They made the decision to proceed with the flight, a decision that would set in motion a series of events they could never have predicted. As the plane took off, the APU issue was still present, like a shadow hanging over the journey. But the pilots, trusting in their skills and the resilience of their aircraft, pushed on, their eyes on the skies and their minds on the task at hand. But remember, every decision has consequences, and in the high-stakes world of aviation, these consequences can be dire. Ignoring the initial warning signs was like planting a seed that would soon grow into a situation of incredible danger and complexity. The seeds of disaster had been sown, and the flight was now on a collision course with destiny. And as we'll soon discover, the trouble was only just beginning. Stay with us as we delve into the unfolding crisis that was Air India Flight 101. As the hours ticked away, the plane's instruments began to betray them. A chill ran through the cockpit as one by one, the instruments they relied on started failing. The first to go were the 2 radio altimeters. Now, these are crucial tools that help pilots determine how high above ground level the aircraft is flying. They work by sending radio waves downwards and then calculating the time it takes for the waves to bounce back. But on this fateful day, 2 of the 3 altimeters on board Air India Flight 101 stopped functioning, leaving the pilots with only one source of altitude information. Imagine you are driving on a foggy road with just one headlight. That's what it was like for the pilots. The loss of these altimeters was a significant blow, but the hits kept coming. Next to fail was the Traffic Collision Avoidance System, or TCS. This system is an extra pair of eyes for the pilots, alerting them to other aircraft in their vicinity and helping to avoid mid-air collisions. It's a critical safety net that suddenly disappeared. You might think, well, the skies are vast, what are the chances of a collision? But remember, they were approaching one of the busiest airports in the world, John F. Kennedy International, where the airspace is teeming with aircraft. These instrument failures were like losing senses. Imagine trying to navigate a bustling city blindfolded, with earplugs in. That's the equivalent of what these pilots were dealing with. The cockpit of the Boeing 7300 was now a high-altitude crisis zone. The pilots were now flying blind, with only one working altimeter and no assistance from the ground. The lives of 357 souls on board rested in their hands. The stakes could not have been higher, the tension thicker than the clouds they were flying through. The drama of Air India Flight 101 was unfolding miles above the ground, silent to those below, but a deafening roar in the ears of those on board. With fuel running low and a plane full of passengers, the pilots had to make a decision. The tension in the cockpit was palpable. Each tick of the clock was a reminder of the dwindling fuel and the lives of 357 people hanging in the balance. In the face of adversity, the pilots turned to the Instrument Landing System, the reliable guide known as ILS, in the hopes of safely touching down amidst the heavy rain and clouds. This system, in ideal scenarios, would have captured signals guiding them straight to the runway. However, this was not an ideal scenario. The ILS, much to their dismay, failed to capture the signals. The pilots were left flying blind in the storm. Not willing to admit defeat, the pilots shifted their strategy. They decided to resort to a GPS-based approach. This approach required visual confirmation of the runway, a challenging task given the poor visibility. The pilots, determined, squinted through the rain-streaked windows, searching for any sign of the runway. In preparation for landing, they extended the landing gear. However, a warning sounded, indicating the gear was not fully down. They checked and double-checked, but everything seemed to be in order. The warning was yet another false alarm, another glitch in the system, further heightening the tension in the cockpit. The pilots were left in a state of increasing panic. Their tried and tested systems were failing them. The situation was spiraling out of control. Each failed attempt to land was a blow to their confidence, a harsh reminder of the dire situation they were in. The once routine flight from New Delhi to New York had turned into a desperate battle against time and technology. The runway was just out of reach, and time was running out. The pilots had to make a decision, and they had to make it fast. With a deep breath, they braced themselves for the next attempt, knowing that it could be their last. In the face of looming disaster, the pilots had one final card to play. As the Boeing 7300 extended range twin jet, a veteran of the skies for over 9 years, found itself in a perilous dance with the elements. The pilots knew they had to act. They were running on fumes, quite literally, with their fuel reserves dwindling. The instrument landing system had failed them, and the GPS-based approach was proving to be a futile effort in the blindfold of heavy rain and dense clouds. In this desperate hour, they made a decision. The landing gear was extended, a mechanical salutation to the runway they could not see, but hoped to touch down on safely. But the plane, like a wounded bird, responded with an ominous warning. A chilling voice echoed in the cockpit, alerting them that the landing gear was not fully down. The pilots held their breath, their hands steady on the controls, their eyes focused on the instruments. The passengers, oblivious to the technical complexities, could still sense the tension. The normally reassuring hum of the engines had transformed into a haunting drone. The smiles of the flight attendants had faltered, replaced by a veiled worry. The gentle rocking of the plane had turned into a tumultuous upheaval. The once familiar confines of the aircraft now felt like the walls of a prison, from which there was no escape. In the cockpit, the pilots were locked in a battle of wits with the unforgiving weather and the failing instruments. Every decision, every maneuver was a gamble. They were flying blind, guided only by their experience and determination. But as the rain lashed against the windshield and the storm clouds cloaked the horizon, they knew they were running out of options. With every passing second, the chances of a safe landing were slipping away. The pilots, the crew, the passengers, they were all in the grip of an unseen enemy, their fate hanging in the balance, their hopes pinned on a miracle that was becoming increasingly elusive as the plane continued its precarious descent. In the end, it was a battle against the odds. In the face of adversity, the pilots fought with every ounce of their skill and resolve. their actions laced with the weight of 357 lives. Their struggle against the relentless storm, the failing instruments, and the gnawing fear of the unknown was nothing short of heroic. On board, the passengers, gripped by a fear that words can barely capture, clung on to hope. The hum of the engines, the incessant rain against the fuselage, the muffled announcements, each a stark reminder of their precarious situation. The tension was palpable, the fear all-consuming. But by some miracle, the disaster was averted. The plane landed safely, the passengers disembarked, their relief palpable. Yet, the echoes of that harrowing journey still lingered. This incident wasn't just a near-miss disaster. It was a testament to human resilience, a poignant reminder of the inherent unpredictability of life. Air India Flight 101, a journey that began like any other, but one that would leave an indelible mark on the annals of aviation history.